Alright guys, welcome back to Frugal Homestead. So today I want to sit down and talk to you about our homemade square drop camper. Now you've all heard of the teardrop campers, maybe seen them on the roads. This is a square drop. Just a kind of a different version of the same idea. Now originally this was built because we wanted to do more trips on a budget. And campsites or even campsites with electric are way cheaper than cabins or Airbnbs in most cases, not all. This was going to be built ultra light so that my wife could pull it with her CRV. It has a very low tongue weight, so it couldn't be heavy. Now, when shopping for the trailer, I should have taken more time. But honestly, between me and my wife both, we have like 40 hours in this whole thing of labor. So a big one still worked out fine. I honestly should have found like a little Harbor Freight or a little lightweight trailer, but at the time I couldn't find anything cheap. And when I ended up getting this one, I was able to recycle some stuff out of it to make it to where we almost didn't pay anything. But what we did was we went and bought a $200 pop-up trailer. Now, we got there and this thing was way bigger than we anticipated. And the only thing I asked the guy was, will it roll? Will it make it home? Because we had to drive down 664. And any of you have come through Bremen and down on 664, it's just like that. He said, yeah, they're fine. We pulled it home and had a blowout halfway home on a Sunday morning in the rain. And then we found out the spare was no good. So we ended up having to go buy a new tire and rim that morning, and getting it home was an adventure. So not a good start to it, to be honest with you. But that said, the build was going to continue. Now, the first thing I did was just start the demo. It had a slide out, it had everything, you know, that a normal one does, except for the bathroom had been stripped from it. So all I did was start tearing things apart. One by one, I pulled the pieces out, broke it down to its smallest form. We were able to salvage so much stuff out of it, like the upper part of the door, which we turned into the door, the interior lights, the lights for the trailer on the back of it, a sink, and an exterior shower kit, which we're going to try and recycle and use in the tiny house we're building, and then all kinds of scrap, as well as the jacks and a hand crank winch that actually lifted the unit up. So we ended up getting a lot of stuff out of it, and I mean, for paying 200 bucks for it, we're kind of saving 200 bucks in different stuff, plus the cost of scrapping out the rest or using the metal for other projects. So once I got it all cut down and demoed up, I cut the sides off and cut the back off to make it smaller. Now that did move the axle back, but it's a rolling axle. It doesn't have springs on it. Once I got that to that point, I was thinking about moving the axle, and I realized that it just didn't matter because that axle has almost no give. It doesn't bounce because it doesn't have springs. It's a roller. So I kind of just left it in the back and said, I'm not worried about it. It'll be better that way later in case we want to put something on the back that's heavy, like bikes, scooters, whatever. I did reattach the bumper off the back of it just as a safety precaution. It didn't need it because it had metal there, but it gave me a few extra inches if somebody bumps us. So then we went out and bought all of the wood and 2x4s that we're going to build this thing. Now if you're wanting to know numbers, at the end of this video we'll give you the breakdown of what costs what basically. But the first thing I had my wife do, because we want this to last, is paint everything with oil-based paint. If you have a wood flat surface and you want it to last, especially if it's new fresh wood, paint it with an oil-based paint. I don't care what any of these paint places tell you. I can show you a house that we painted like 15 or 20 years ago that still looks beautiful because the first layer we put on the raw wood was oil-based. So that's kind of our treatment we use on everything outside to make sure it lasts. Now, by her painting all that stuff, when I was laying the plywood down, it was super easy because everything was already coated. So the side that I put down was already painted, and then this thing was assembled originally with self-tapping square head screws. So I went out and bought a heavier version of that and just attached the plywood down and started building my sides onto it using those screws. Now, the floor is 58 inches wide by 8 foot long. That is the outside measurements. Now, the sides are 4 foot high, 8 foot long. And the inside framing is all done out of 2x2 or 2x4. And the round over on the front, I got my angle by using a blue water barrel. So just put it up there at the corner of the plywood, traced it out, cut it out with a jigsaw. Really easy to do, and then the studding with the 2x4s up the front gives it plenty of rigidness, you know, even in the worst winds pulling it down the road. Now, the inside and the sides are all made out of 1/2-inch plywood 3-ply, which is the lighter version of 1/2-inch plywood, and I'm using actual plywood. Now on the top we use 1/4-inch plywood that my wife actually got some bench sheets for $9 a piece. Had we had that to do over, I would have either cut them both and ran them over rather than having a little piece on one side, or I would have used masonite. Because of the way we coated it, it would have been fine, and it bends a lot easier because regular plywood at any thickness doesn't like to bend at all. So that's just something to think about in the future. If we build another one, or if you guys are building one, think about using masonite on the top because it'll round over so much easier. Now, the next thing I did was I cut out the hole and installed the door. Now the door was just the top half of the door that goes in the screen part, so it made it kind of easy. It already had a piano style hinge on it, so we just put it in, and then I used a screen door knob kit and just kind of finagled it to make it work. After that, I cut in and installed the rear window. Now we did not have to pay for the window because I had one in the garage. The only problem is it's so small, it was perfect for the back of it, but it's so small you actually have to take the pane out, the bottom pane out, to put a 5,000 BTU air conditioner in, and it just fits. Now, that's good and bad. Take it as what it is, but it was free. Now, we did use a house window. That is why it's in the back of the unit, because those windows do not do well when they're on the sides or the front going down the road getting peppered by the wind. It's hard on the seals, that's why it's on the back. Now, after that, we had to get to the hard part, and this is the part that my wife hated, and so did I in a way. It was super hot out, and we were going to do all the seams. Now, I had already caulked all the seams with silicone just so it had some movement, but then we took Bondo and filled in the rest of the seams, and we sanded and it was hot out, and we just basically got frustrated with it. So while we didn't get every single thing smooth, it did add a rigidness and a strength to it for the next couple coats. So after we got the Bondo all sanded out, we went to town doing the normal first coat, which is oil-based paint. That protects it and protects the wood really well. But I knew this thing was going to be, you know, getting hit a lot, so I wanted to make sure something that if it was hailing or if it was raining real hard or if we're going down the road and bugs are hitting it and rocks and other things, that we weren't going to have an issue. So we covered the entire thing in elastometric roof coating. Now, I did 2 full coats using an entire gallon on this thing. And I mean, I laid it on, especially over the top and the front. This just guarantees that nothing's going to leak, nothing's going to have any issue. You could have probably gotten it tinted a color, but I wasn't too worried about it because even if I have to coat the thing every year, it's fine with me. It's not hard, it doesn't take long. That just gives us some protection. So once I got the roof coating on, I knew it was time to really think about the electric and stuff because I was running out of time on this build because we were going to take it on a trip. So the first thing I did was pull out the lights that I had scrapped out of the other trailer, put them in, and then connected those down to go in a cigarette lighter. That is for like a power bank or something. I wanted to be able to take this where we don't have, you know, power and still be able to have lights no matter what. We have an Oops solar generator box, and those lights will run forever off of it. Now, I will say that we installed 3 of them, and 1, because the inside's painted white, is all you need. You turn all 3 on and you feel like you're in a tanning bed. It's crazy how bright they are. We also probably change out the older style light bulbs in it to LED bulbs in the future, but yeah, there's a few too many lights in there, but that's okay. Now, we also took and put in just one 110 outlet and then ran it out and put a plug in on it, and that's to run the air conditioner. Don't think we'll ever really plug anything else in there. maybe a fan, and we could probably put it in the window in the fall. But realistically, this thing doesn't need a lot of electric in it. Now, we bought a light kit, and it was $25, and it's the cheapest one I could find at Lowe's. And then we got it home, and literally the lenses are so thin, I already cracked one of the lenses just installing it. So I don't suggest buying that one, but it's a 4-plug, so it doesn't have enough to do trailer brakes. And this does have trailer brakes, but we didn't need to use them at all. And I don't see in the future having to use them at all. But I got the light kit on. It really wasn't that hard. If I was being honest with you, it probably took me an hour, and that's just because I was going slow. With everything, lights and stuff installed, it was time to get the jacks on. Now the jacks we had pulled off, they're hand crank style, off the original trailer. But because we cut all the sides off, the jacks got taken off. So I had to screw all them back on, and ended up those heavy 1/2-inch self-tapping screws ended up being perfect to just zip those up on. And they actually work perfectly. You don't even have to have blocks under them. They'll lift this thing right up off the ground, no problem. Now, once the jacks were done, my wife kind of complained. We had one brand new tire on it and new rim, and she wanted another. And I didn't. I wanted to go get tires and just put them on the rims and be done. So we went her route, which was a little more expensive, but it made her happy. And, you know, I think that sometimes you just have to give in to things like that. It's not a bad investment. It's just more looks than it was anything. So to finish the trailer out before this trip, I wanted to have the flooring down in it. But also realize that this is gonna get tore up. You know, you're crawling in and out of it all the time. You're going to the beaches where there's sand, so sand's gonna get in there and basically sandblast everything. I thought about vinyl, but the problem with vinyl is it doesn't have any rigidness to it. And that 1/2-inch floor was a little thin. I mean, it just bent a little bit, but not enough to matter. But then we ended up getting a box of the Pergo type snap lock flooring, like the older style. And I think I paid like 80 cents a square foot was what this came out to for this box. We used about 3/4 of the box to put down the floor in there. And it really came out nice. And all I ended up doing was caulking the edges. Now, truly this thing probably will get some kind of insulation and some kind of interior done on it. I really don't know what. At the moment, I don't think it's even necessary. And I would say that you really don't need it, because in the winter, if there's 2 people in there breathing, it's gonna it's gonna get warm. I mean, we've been in tents and it's raised the temperature just laying there sleeping. So just breathing in this with it sealed up as it is, you're quickly gonna warm up in there. But we bought us a 6-inch foam mattress that actually folds up into a couch. And I gotta be honest, that thing is super comfortable. Oh my gosh. We took it to Myrtle Beach and it was absolutely amazing to sleep on. I really enjoyed it. It did keep it frosty in there. I mean, we had it set at 72 and it would freeze you out in there. Missy many times was flipping the switch so it blew on me instead of her, because she was cold. Now, I guess it's time for us to talk some numbers. So the total cost for this whole build was $750. Now you have to remember, a lot of this stuff we had, you know, like the window and other stuff, but these could all be gotten for free off of like Craigslist or something, or Facebook Marketplace. You could do this so much cheaper. The benefits to this were we got a bunch of things. Like, for example, we kept the propane stove out of it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things we got out of this. So the trailer was $200. The tires and rims were $250. The light kit was $25. The roof coating was $25. And then all the plywood, 2x4s, screws, the screen door handle, and the oil-based paint was another $250. So $750 out the door. I mean, this thing was amazing. We put it on Missy's car. Went and got it weighed. It was 925 pounds. So under 1,000 pounds is what this trailer weighs. And we drug it down to Myrtle Beach and through the mountains. It drug perfectly. It really did not push. It did not pull. Nothing. Almost like it wasn't back there. Now, where you knew it was back there is if you're going down a sharp grade or something, then the bottom of the jack would drag a little bit because Missy's car was set down. She needs an offset hitch to where it comes out and up. So we'll be working on that because when a vehicle is level with its trailer, it just pulls better. Now we did have to invest in something else I'm going to do a video on because we'd never pulled anything heavy with Missy's car before, and every time we hit a bump, it would go thud. And I didn't know what it was, and ended up that the looseness in the hitch makes that sound on those SUVs. Now you can't hear it on my truck because my truck's big and bangs around, and that's 8 foot back. You know, you're not going to hear it. So we bought the kit from Harbor Freight to cinch down the anti-rattle, and man, that thing's great. I'll be doing a video on that to show you guys. But realistically, I think that everybody has the ability to build something like this. It's not hard, it's not expensive, and it doesn't take very long. And once you build it, the options are limitless. I promise you, you will save so much money. At Myrtle Beach, we were literally right off the beach. You could walk just over the dune from where we're camping and be on the beach. So that's as good as having an actual hotel room on the boardwalk or right on the beach to where you can walk out. But we did it for a fraction of the price. Now, this is small, but 8 foot by 58 inches, that's big enough for me and Missy. You know, you crawl in there. It's also big enough to sit up in on our little couch thing if it's raining out. It's actually big enough you can set our backpacking chairs inside there and sit down and have, you know, 4 or 5 people in there if you had to. It's also, this one's built big enough because we're probably going to start taking our pups on some of our trips. They're getting older now. They're calmer. They'll just get in there and lay down. They have the air conditioning in there as an option to stay nice and cool. So it's kind of one of those things where we had to make it big enough for them too. I really think that anyone can do this. I wouldn't tell anyone not to attempt this because it's very easy. I would just take more time, shop for everything you need. If you've got the space, gather it all up, put it in your garage, and make sure you have everything that you really need before you start. And I would not be like a lot of these other videos I see where people go buy brand new Harbor Freight trailers for 400 bucks. There's no reason for that, guys. There's no reason to go buy an $800 or a $500 or $300, $400 trailer. Go buy a $100 trailer that's in good shape. As long as you got good tires on it and the trailer's in good shape, it'll hold. This trailer's way too heavy for what little bit of weight we have on it. So for those of you that stayed till the end here, we really appreciate it. If you haven't already, and I don't know why you wouldn't have, go down, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you see all of our upcoming videos. Give us a like. Let us know what you think of the camper. Could you go on a trip in this thing? Would you enjoy yourself? Do you think it's too small? Or do you think it could be even smaller? Because we're considering building a smaller version for the little Honda Fit so we can go way long cross country on a budget. So if that's something you guys want to see, please let us know, and I will see you in the next one.